Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Now, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be checking out a movie from 1988, and since this is, of course, Valentine's Day, we decided to do something that is truly romantic. Well, technically it says here it's actually 1987. I'll fix this in the edit, don't worry. So, we're checking out a movie from 1987, and that movie is Full Metal Jacket. Now, since yesterday, we're sort of like doing a little bit of like a mini marathon of Stanley Kubrick movies. Last week we had 2001: A Space Odyssey, and now we're moving on to Full Metal Jacket. Now, in case you're wondering, I'll probably maybe do the Shining next week. Since I've already have seen A Clockwork Orange, I'll not go into it because it doesn't feel particularly fair, but I might do a video talking about it later on and comparing it probably to the book. If anything, I probably might just talk about the book for about 2 hours or so if I wanted to. Since there are a few differences here and there that I feel like it would be important to tell people who are interested in reading Clockwork Orange. Anyway, speaking of that, Full Metal Jacket is based on a book as far as my knowledge goes. I can't quite necessarily say who wrote it. I'll find out right now, actually. I may as well. It was screenplayed. I know fine well it's a war film directed by... Oh, it's based on the Hansford's '97 short novel, the Short Times. Well, I do know there was apparently a scene in the book and that concerning the death of Sergeant. I think it was Drill Sergeant Gunnery, I believe. I'm not entirely sure if I can base that, but what I do know is that this film, and I've talked about this actor a little bit in an early movie I did called Mississippi Burning, is that this stars real-life drill sergeant and sadly no longer with us, Emery. And this really was the movie that made him into a star, and I've got to straight up find out what it was like, because I can only hazard a guess that there are not too many differences between Emery in production and from him in real life being a drill sergeant. So if there's anything to look forward to, because I know this is meant to be based in Vietnam, well, in the Vietnam War, so I'm gonna have to just look into this and just see what comes out. It might even be likely that, to me at least, this might not even be a good movie, because I have very little knowledge going into this movie about exactly what happens, and I heard a lot of people praise, obviously, Emery, so he got like an Oscar for like Best Supporting Actor, I think, but then again, we'll just have to see, because Emery was only in a supporting role, so we'll have to wait and see what the rest of the movie has to offer. But we're gonna have to wait and see, and actually we won't wait around any longer. I want to just see what this is all about, see what all the racket about Full Metal Jacket is all about. So if you guys are ready at home, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Full Metal Jacket. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Full Metal Jacket. Let me just turn that off. Right, okay, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I did actually find out that it was based on the novel by Gustav Howard, who he was one of like makes sense that he would be one of the screenwriters for this. That makes, I think, quite a lot of sense. And actually, before we even begin, I just got a question to ask, mostly because it's in reference to The Shining, of what I'll be doing next week, is... I know fine well there's a very notorious story in the production of The Shining where Stanley Kubrick, I think he bullied this actress into performing in a very specific manner. I say that because how do you suppose Stanley Kubrick actually went around giving direction for this movie? Because trying to You couldn't get away with that with somebody like Lee Ermey, who played. I also wanted to get this right as well. Herman, I believe it was. Motherfucker, I have to check again. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it must have been, because well, yes, it was. It was Drill Sergeant. I'm gonna have to do this again. Bloody hell, I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't necessarily just get this wrong. So let me do this properly now. 1 second. I'll just get the credits back up again. Okay, right, fair enough. So I only do this Sergeant Hartman. Okay, that makes. Okay, but at least I'm getting that right now. The point was that how exactly do you suppose that would have gone, where Kubrick or even Howard would have gone around asking Lee Ermey to make sure. I'm pretty sure it must have just said behave as you were in any other scenario where you were training recruits on Paris Island. I'm pretty sure it must have come round to something like that, because to be a drill sergeant, you have got to be a lot tougher than actually just being a recruited Marine. You've got to be. I don't necessarily know the process myself, probably because it's only known to people who are drill sergeants. But I can only imagine right now that he must have been in a very different world of shit. And I bring this into question because there's a very, very interesting part about this movie I've only just sort of realised now. Is that how best can I describe this? Is that when all is said and done, it's not particularly it's not really a story about Vietnam. It's not really a story about just watching. It's basically watching a story about Joker become experienced and numb to the fact that the army has one job and one job only, to turn men into killing machines. Because as far as I've worked out, he watched Private Pyle slaughter Hartman and then take his own life, because Pyle obviously couldn't take the pressure, and that's why he sort of did himself in the heads. Then when they shoot, because most of the movie is shot in Vietnam anyway, which is where you see Joker. He's still kind of not taking quite as seriously the world he's in, and he only does it really sort of like to impress the guys in his platoon, including what was it, Rafterman? Yeah, that was correct. And then when they get shipped up to this first platoon, where they meet again with another recruit named Cowboy, and they think very highly of him because Animal Mother, played by Adam Baldwin, and I didn't realize until this movie just how tall Adam Baldwin was, because when he's standing beside somebody named Jungle Boy or 8-Ball, he is so tall that it makes sense, because I believe there was a story where Kubrick wanted to get Arnold Schwarzenegger to play Animal Mother, but I'm sort of now going on a limb and saying I think it was better for everybody for that Baldwin was to be Animal Mother, because when you see him and just covered in shells, he has all sorts of cigarettes strapped to his head, and also "I am become deaf" scrawled on his helmet in big letters. And the size of his, I don't really want to call it a machine gun, because this thing, it was like a mortar because there are mortars being shown in the movie, but it didn't just look like a mortar. It looked like a mortar specifically to shoot 1,500 rounds every 90 seconds. It looked absolutely massive. I don't particularly think it was the same as like a juggernaut sort of weapon, but it was massive. And he is, I think honestly, Baldwin was probably a little bit more intimidating to look at than maybe Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger, I think, would have been a little bit too not saying anything against Schwarzenegger, but I think he would have looked a little too stand out. I think Baldwin does sort of enough to stand out without doing anything overt. Like, he doesn't draw as near enough attention as Schwarzenegger would in this sort of role, because Animal Mother he is absolutely brilliant. He is stoical, very hard, and it's because he knows, he's seen the shit. He's been in combat. He's seen shit, and I like the fact that Jungle Boy straight up said it, that you've got to be the greatest in the world, because if you're not, you're going down, which brings me sort of like to like what I was saying earlier about the whole movie being about Joker being trained from this kid into a natural born killer, because all of a sudden he recognizes the task at hand, and he becomes more and more conflicted at watching likes of Cowboy die, watching 8-Ball die, watching Doc J die, watching basically his mates and that in the platoon and slaughtered left and right, and it gives you a good impression about what being in a world of shit really is, because you realize that Joker is sort of like dead at the very end. I mean, he doesn't die in the end, but he looks dead. He looks, even when he's singing Mickey Mouse, the club or whatever it was, with everyone else marching back from this decaying city, he is just in his dialogue saying that he's happy to be alive, but he's not the same person. He's in a world of shit, because a part of him died when he had to finish the job in taking out this sniper. He realizes that now this is who he is now. Like, there's no more Joker. It's just a guy who kills, and you could even say he may even have a name by the end of the movie, because he's not a joke anymore. He wasn't making any more jokes, so obviously he's got to be changed. I mean, look at the way that's the way this is shown, by the way, on the cover. You see Joker's head is looking down. He can't face it. And with literally just "Born to Kill" in big letters shown at the camera. I'm pretty sure that was intentional, because he's now shown the world his true colors, that he is being molded specifically for this role. And I even like this really, really good shot, is that when Joker has done the job in finishing off this sniper, his peace lapel, which he keeps in full view, it's sort of like there's a part of like his jacket is sort of like just covering up the peace sign, so it's barely visible on camera, because forgetting about the politics that were expressed at several parts during like little mini interviews in the movie, it's become increasingly clear that none of that really matters to Joker, because the one thing he expressed is to be the first kid on his block to slaughter somebody from Vietnam, and he's not a kid now. He's a natural born killer, because he finally did it. He finally did what he always said he was going to do, and he does not particularly look very happy about it. I can say that much. Now, what I've always found very, very kind of fascinating about the way these about the ways you see I think I've even got a copy of the movie Platoon downstairs that has I think it's got like Keith David among other people inside, because the interactions, I don't know whether or not this is like how you would see anybody interact within camps or anything like that, because I remember a number of years ago, I think it was like either 2012 or 2013, I watched this series called Bluestone 42, which is about a bomb disposal team in Afghanistan or Iraq, and everybody kind of like talks like these are sort of mates you would have known in school, and before you realize it, that when shit hits the fan, everybody becomes alert, and I think honestly just so they can protect each other, and that's the sort of thing that kind of like I think sort of like echoes, because Hardman speaks very early in the film about how everybody in the Marine is basically a brother to one another, and that They will live, fight, and die for God, their country, and for each other. They're not allowed to... What was the line Harmon says? They're not allowed to die because they would have let their side down or something like that. But it gives you a sense that as vicious and as snarling as Animal Mother is, he runs in to pull 8-Ball and Doc J out, well, without even so much as a second thought. And this even goes the same for Joker when he's gripping hold of Animal Mother just to make sure that... No, he doesn't grip Animal Mother. He grips Cowboy just to make sure that he's probably going to survive, even though we all know he's done for. Rafterman, curiously enough, the guy who I'm trying to think about who was the guy who... it might have been like Crazy O or somebody who was basically killed in this booby trap, and it was also sort of like the point in the movie where they let Cowboy become captain, and all of a sudden, listen guys, I wouldn't know. I've never been in scenarios like this, but the responsibility, and you could see Animal Mother clearly is not happy about Cowboy being that's what I've just come to realize about this movie, is that Animal Mother only takes charge because it's very, very obvious he's not only got the 1,000-yard stare in both eyes. He knows by being in this situation before. Oh yeah, and also there's a guy in this called Handjob. I completely forgot about that. That's kind of funny. Now, what I wanted to bring into this a little bit more away from this is that, what do you suppose? It probably would have been like, I'm trying to figure what the thing is I kind of wanted to phrase or word, is that if there's anybody at home right now who's ever served in Vietnam or who's ever been in war, I think the only problem I have with this movie is because is that I've never been to war. I've never known what it's like to just have people tell me where to shit, know when to wake up, know when to get dressed, know when I've got to get on the floor and give them 20. I've never been in that. Curiously enough, ladies and gentlemen, you may not know this, but I actually applied to join the army when I was 21, shortly after leaving university, after graduating. I had to do sort of a medical talk over the phone about certain parts of my body and all that. I talked to them and we went over this. I told them I had Asperger's, and then about 3 days later, the British recruiting officer was on the phone to me, and she said in the simplest possible terms, I mean really, really simple terms, that they've considered my application and I was denied, and they would be shutting down my account in exactly 1 hour. And then they hung up on me. I think it was they hung up on me. They basically said there was nothing else that could be done, and that was it. The conversation was basically dead at that point. Then again, I don't particularly know what I even talked to a friend of mine who said that maybe possibly this was just a test on its own to see if you really wanted to do this. Then again, and I've talked to other people I know who are in the army, and I know people who are in the police, I know people who have been in the army, yet being in the army, people who are serving, people who are in the RAF, who are now flying officers. I had a mate, right, who we did English lit classes together when we were in sixth form. This guy who, within about a year and a half, who, my neighbour across the street is also in the RAF. They go to the same university. They are basically sitting side by side in classes. And they are both, I think my neighbour is possibly because, listen, why my neighbour decided to join the RAF when he could have been in infantry in the British Army is something that's a little bit beyond my guess, because he is really, really tall and he built like a brick shithouse, to say the least. I'm pretty sure it must have been a joke among my mate, who's now a flying officer, that he'd probably bring down the plane. Actually, I shouldn't. I don't think he'd be. I think he. I know he's a kind of joke. You know, he got engaged when probably about the same time when I was leaving university, and getting engaged at 21. That's like I'll say this for him right now if he's watching this. You gotta really, really love somebody to decide. That's it. We're doing it, and all credit to them. They are very, very happy together, and I absolutely have no way of saying. Even my neighbour has been dating. I think they're still dating. Some girl I don't really know. I think they've been dating for about like 3-4 years at this point. It wouldn't surprise me if they decided to announce they were engaged in about a year or so. In fact, the last time I really spoke to him was on VE Day back in. Was VE Day back in like August or July? I can't remember. It was the 75th anniversary, and it was the only time we had in which people were allowed to go out the house and actually, talk to each other since, COVID and all this shit going on. But now, looking back, guys, listen to me. You know what I did when, as soon as I heard that they had denied my application, I went to the gym. I worked out for, I think, about 2 hours. I was so angry. I was furious, and I rarely get angry at the best of times, but when I say I was furious, I wanted to knock down equipment. I wanted to break windows. I felt like, how dare they turn people like me down? I would have been a great, great soldier. I probably would never have made it to the rank of a field marshal, because I'm being completely realistic there. Trying to be a drill sergeant, I imagine, is one. I could not even begin to think what the hell you have to go under to be an SAS recruit or a colonel, a general, or even, or even a sergeant major, let alone a field marshal, which is the highest rank in the British Army, is from the last time I remember. I say that because, watching this movie, it's sort of, because that's the thing I've always kind of noticed, is that Stanley Kubrick is sort of like, one of his biggest strengths, aside from being basically an expert in direction, is that he is an expert at directing what he wants to say about the world, about being being trapped in a world of shit, being at the very, very bottom of a cesspool. That is what being dead feels like, because what else are they going to do? They're not going to treat you as if you were still alive. When you're dead, you have no use to anybody at that point. You're basically, your only destiny when you die is that you're there to rot. I don't even blame that, that advisor telling me that my application was denied, because I'm not entirely sure if I could have handled, shooting somebody. Because what on earth does that feel like, ladies and gentlemen? Being responsible for killing somebody. What on earth is that like? I genuinely would not know, and I don't even want to even think about that. I think that's... Which is also kind of perplexing when, almost at the very beginning of the film, Joker says he is trained to kill. No, he says, why did you join my platoon? Sir, to kill, sir. Why? I'm not even sure if he even believes in himself, or he's just trying to impress the drill sergeant. But now there's a saying and doing, both very, very different things, and And I think, just sort of like little final notes I kind of like want to stress about Full Metal Jacket before we like put a little bow on this, because I think I've talked for long enough at this point. One thing I just straight up want to say before we go is that I don't know whether or not it's in my actually, I'll tell you what, I'll go get something. I've got to find something. Animation. No. Let's see. Oh, here it is. This was something that I had to study a little bit when I was about 12, going on 13. Actually, it might have been when I was like 14 for that point. No, it was 13. It's I'll just read out something very at random. I might read Delcia Decorum Est if it is technically in here. It's a collection of Wilfred Owen's war poetry. And technically I know this is World War One and not Vietnam, but that's just something at random. Alright, we'll do this one. It's called Miners, which I think we all kind of know what that infers, because the guys in the film aren't exactly, I would say, old either. Private Pyle looks basically like a very big child in this movie. There was a whispering in my hearth, a sign of the coal, grown wistful of a former earth it might recall. I listened for a tale of leaves and smothered ferns, frowned forests and the low sly lives before the fawns. My fire might show steam phantoms simmer from time's old cauldron, before the birds made nests in summer, or men had children. But the coals were murmuring of their mine, and moans down there of boys that slept while sleep, and men rivering for air. And I saw white bones in the cinder shard, bones without number, many the muscled bodies charred, and few remember. I thought of all that worked dark pits of war and died, digging the rock where death raptures, peace lies indeed. Confronted years will sit soft-chaired in rooms of amber, the heirs will stretch their hands well cheered by our life's ember. The centuries will burn rich loads with which we groaned, whose warmth shall lure their dreaming lids, while songs are crooned, but they will not dream of us poor lads left in the ground. Written at Scarborough on 13th or 14th January 1918. On the 12th of January, a pit explosion at the Podmore Hill Colliery, Hammerhead, killed about 140 men and boy miners. Woe presumably read the newspaper accounts that in the Daily News of the 14th of January, being headlined Colliery Disaster, and the same day he told S.O. write a poem on the Colliery Disaster. But I get mixed up with the war at the end. It is short, but O. Sauer, EB 125, he showed it to SS, who proposed alterations which questionable judgment. Woe would seem to have accepted CCPAF 287. On the 17th of January he sent his mother the coal poem, and 2 days later he wrote to her, "With your beautiful letter came a proof from the nation of my miners." This is the first poem I have sent to the nation myself, and it has evidently been accepted. It was scrawled out of the back of a note to the editor, and no penny stamp or addressed envelope was enclosed for return. That's the way we do to it. Miners will probably appear next Saturday, 26th of January. It did, and that evening Woe wrote to ELG. You may feel keen enough to buy this week's Nation. I have at least a poem in it, which I sent off on Whose Musical Ear was offered by the Cousins Rhymes. And on the 12th of February, Woe replied, I suppose I am doing in poetry what the advanced composers are doing in music. I am not satisfied with either. Still I am satisfied with the 2 guineas and that half hour's work brought me. Got the cheque this morning. Wilfred Owen and the Georgians Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Miners, children dying on the battlefields and digging for coal and left in the ground in their world of shit. I might have to pull this. I reckon if I'm gonna do more movies about war generally, I'm gonna have to pull out this book a little bit on a more regular basis, because I think Wilfred Owen, if not any and all war poetry, could be produced in almost any context to convey the horror of and the tragedy of what were disposable heroes. So with all that being said and done, I hope you guys have enjoyed this review of Full Metal Jacket. Please make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie for yourselves. And I hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.